Welcome to this week in Missouri Politics. Many things happening in the world. We're going to have three different segments today with three different sets of guests. The first is Neveen Ayesh. I tell you, a friend of mine and someone who I would say is probably the foremost expert I know in Missouri on the Palestinian cause with everything going on. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Scott.
Let's start at the beginning. 2 weeks ago, before the recent events, what were the conditions like on the ground in Gaza?
Yeah. And the Gaza Strip, so the Gaza Strip has actually been under siege for the last 2 decades, which is at 20 years now, right? So nothing can come in, out. The citizens of Gaza have been unable to come in and out. Their electricity is limited every day. Water use is limited every day. And of course, between all of that, you have the Israeli military provoking the Gazans and implementing continued state violence against them. And so that's what's happening in Gaza. It's what's been happening in Gaza.
Let's say they have their own autonomy to do what they'd like. Do they not have autonomy to make sure they have electricity, to make sure they have their own water?
Actually, they do not. Israel controls it. The Israeli government controls it, not just within the Gaza Strip.
Israel will not allow them to build a water plant or a power plant in Gaza.
Without their full permission and their say, no, they do not.
This feels like, at the end of the day, it's the oldest, most complicated conflict in the history of mankind. But it comes down to a fight over land. The Palestinians view the footprint of Palestine or Israel as Palestine. The Jews view it as Israel. There's been fights over land throughout history. California was taken by force by the American government from Mexico. Danzig has been taken by, good Lord, how many countries? Germany, Prussia, Russia, Poland. But you don't see people paragliding in over a fence and killing folks at a music festival. Why is this so different?
Well, there was a lot to your question, so forgive me if I need a moment to respond. I want to comment on your sentiments. You originally addressed that this was a conflict about land. And while there is some truth to that, it's not just about land, right? You're talking about people that we have been, whether it's in occupied Palestine or even here within the United States, have been asking governments, people in leadership, allies around us, the world, to put an end to Israel's violence against the Palestinian people. It's not just about the land at this point. It is about the integrity and the humanity and liberty and freedoms of a people that have been undermined of all of those things for the last 75 years. There was another point I was going to make in my trail of thought.
I've always heard a two-state solution is what has to ultimately happen. Is that real? Do you think practically speaking, there could be a two-state solution that would actually people could live with and live in peace?
You know, the idea of a two-state solution was something that the Palestinians had agreed to and came to the table and said, okay, we will.
You believe that's a practical thing that could happen and be workable?
I think that the Israeli government and state that's a question that you should probably ask somebody on the opposing end, given that the Oslo Accords, 1993 Oslo Accords, had.
But do you think that the Palestinians and the Jewish people, do you think, whoever's fault it is, do you think it's possible to have a two-state solution to live in peace?
I think so long as Israelis and the Israeli government are willing to live side by side with Palestinians and accept for them and allow for them to have the same freedoms and liberties that they allow and want and accept for themselves, yes, that there can be a two-state solution or a one-state solution or whatever it is that you want to call it, so long as that is respected on both sides.
As you've been here in the state of Missouri, it was interesting. One day I was watching the House of Representatives, and your tweets were greatly discussed. There were some things you had said. You thought of approving of Israel burning. Do you regret some of those tweets?
You know, Scott, I'm going to say this, and if you weren't going to mention it, I actually was, because that is something that I have continuously been discredited for my work within our state legislative.
Incendiary comments.
Correct, and they are horrific comments. And to be honest with you, when I made them, they were around times like we're seeing today. And I was young and I was dumb. And the truth is that I didn't know how to externalize the pain that I was feeling. And I am being 100% honest. And anyone who knows me knows.
You're older. We're all older than we were then.
Correct.
Do you regret doing that? Do you wish you'd have made those?
Of course I do. I mean, to be honest with you, are you the same person now that you were 10 years ago, 5 years ago? We all have, anything I had said are not things that were ever acted on, nothing that holds credibility, nothing that, and it's crazy to me how it's always a focus on what is said and not what is actually happening and what's being done. And what led me, like, people think we wake up just deciding to hate the state of Israel, just decide we hate Jewish people, we hate Israel. We don't.
Give me this, though. The last question.
Of course.
There's obviously going to be a response from Israel, and there'll be a response from Hamas, and this will go on like it has for 2,000 years. If you could say
5 years, technically.
what would be the best outcome for everyone in that area? What would that look like to you?
For international law to be upheld.
And what would that look like for people that don't know what international law says about this?
Remove the military checkpoints from within Palestinian towns, allow the Palestinian people that's freedom to travel within their homelands, the freedom to marry who they want to marry. Israel deprives them of that too, based on where you reside within
Palestine.
Palestine.
That could be a one-state solution with everybody having equal rights and just voting for the policies they believe in?
You know, I'm not going to comment on a 1 or 2 state solution, but yes, I do believe. I believe that the moment that the Israeli government and Israelis decide that they want to reside next to us, with us, and uphold our rights equal to theirs, there can be peace and there can be an end to a conflict. But until there's accountability, until they acknowledge the elephant in the room, which nobody wants to mention, which the word Palestinian has not even been uttered by your elected officials, let alone anybody else in the world. It's either Hamas terrorists or Islamic terrorists. Like, my identity, I'm not even being identified as who I am, which I'm Palestinian American. I was born in this great state of Missouri. I'm not just Palestinian, right? But I was born here, but I was raised there. I lived under the occupation myself. And so which is why I am so passionate about what I do, because I firsthand experienced this.
Well, thank you for coming here and sharing your views, and hopefully this conflict doesn't continue on, but hopefully as the election cycle comes on, you'll come back and we'll talk a little Missouri
Thank you
politics.
for having me, Scott. Thank you for having me.
Be right back with Keith Beardslee after this.
For more than a century, the St. Louis Carpenters Union has shaped our communities. Through trusted alliances, we deliver skilled professional craftspeople, while our business partners provide the kind of quality jobs that keep our economy humming. It's a blueprint that has worked since 1882. Turning Missouri into a right-to-work state stalls progress, wipes out jobs, and kills momentum. Right to work is wrong for everyone. Let's keep Missouri moving forward. Visit carpdc.org to learn more.
Welcome back to Missouri Politics. We are now joined by Keith Beardslee, a lay leader with AIPAC. The AIPAC stands for what, Keith?
American Israel Public Affairs Committee.
But a lot of folks are going to know you from your outstanding public relations firm. Seen it, read it, heard it?
Seen, read, heard.
Seen, read, heard. I like it. Tell me the situation now. We're taping this on Thursday, to be fair. The situation on the ground in Israel right now.
Yeah, I think when we woke up last Saturday, I think it was truly horrifying to see the images that were coming across our TV. I don't think anybody was prepared to see that. I mean, Israel is now facing its gravest threat since its founding 75 years ago.
Wow. Essentially, we were talking before we went on the air. They intentionally was trying to overwhelm the Iron Dome.
Right. Hamas was shooting thousands upon thousands of rockets, just trying to overwhelm their air defense systems. Think back in 2021, and they had that 11-day conflict, and that was a conflict. In the first 24-hour period that started on Saturday, they used more Iron Dome interceptors to protect Israelis and Palestinians who live in Israel from this threat.
I mean, to me, a rocket being fired from somewhere is a little bit of an abstract concept. I think the thing that hit home for me was, I'm watching the coverage. People flew in little hang glider things over the fence, and they just killed people at a music festival, just indiscriminately killed them. Now, I had someone earlier in the show. I get it. The Palestinians have a grievance. They feel like they've been aggrieved. But my God, it is hard to get your head around someone killing a bunch of young people at a music festival, just murdering them.
I mean, what we saw on Saturday was the true face of evil. I mean, as you said, they just came in. They massacred families. They had families sitting there watching them where they would kill their family members. Then they would kill them. They cut the heads off of babies. I mean, I don't know how more depraved you could be.
I knew you'd traveled with AIPAC. I didn't know how many times. You've been to Israel how many times?
I've been to Israel twice.
And what parts did you see?
I traveled all over the country from the north to the south. And I'd been to Kfar Aziz where we got those horrendous reports of.
What's that like to see on television devastation in a place you've actually been?
Well, it hits home. It guts you.
Yeah.
Having been there, I met the people. They were just peaceful, loving people. They wanted nothing more than to live in peace with their neighbors. And now their community's just been.
You're talking about a 2,500-year-old rivalry, the most complicated conflict in the history of mankind. I hear two-state solution. Boy, that just don't seem like that's feasible, is it?
Well, if there's going to be a two-state solution, Israel needs someone that they can make peace with. And right now, they don't have that option that they're surrounded with. But you have the Abraham Accords. They've had normalization agreements with Bahrain, the UAE, Morocco. So
what this is really about is the rest of the Arab world's moving on from the Palestinian cause, and they wanted to try to throw a monkey wrench in that.
I believe that's part of the equation here. Iran saw that the Saudis and the Israelis are working together on a normalization deal. I mean, we were months away from those two coming to an historic agreement to normalize the relation.
When we say history, we say historic in America, we're talking about 50 years. This is historic like thousands of years.
Right. Think about it. When Saudi Arabia and Israel finally come to make this normalization deal, think about it. Saudi Arabia is home to two major
Mecca and
Medina, and Israel's home to the Jewish faith, and it's also home to the Christian faith.
So tell me this: if the Palestinians, they have a reason to be aggrieved, right? They have things you could sit down at a table with, and both sides could lay their grievances out. They feel like that land is theirs. The Jewish people feel like that land is theirs. But boy, it just hard to find any justification for what they did last weekend.
You can't justify it, and the Palestinians have walked away from deals to have their own country numerous times.
But remember, Palestinians will ever accept a deal that allows a Jewish homeland in modern-day Israel.
I hope with the Abraham Accords in the other countries, Arab and Muslim countries, it will put pressure on them.
One thing to accept them and sign them and have a big peace thing. Egypt and Israel have made peace.
And Jordan. And let's remember that Israel gave up the Gaza Strip in 2005. They moved their people out of the Gaza Strip, turned it over to the Palestinians.
Was that a mistake?
And then the Palestinians turned around and elected Hamas.
Was that a mistake to turn that back over?
I think they were doing what they thought was right for
after last weekend. Was that a mistake by Israel to give them that land back?
I think the mistake, you could say, was the Palestinians elected a terrorist group to lead their government in the West, in the Gaza Strip.
So I watched people. We all had the Ukraine pins on, right, for about 6 months, and we're Americans. Now I see people saying, "Okay, enough Ukraine. We've done enough. Let's walk off." Then I see the same people trying to say we should go give money to Israel. What is the thought process behind mostly Republicans, all Republicans actually, except for maybe a few socialists? They say, okay, Ukraine's over, but that because America first. But now we should help Israel.
I would say they're two different issues. Yes, they're both having threats, but we have had a long-standing relationship with Israel since its founding. Let's remember, it was President Harry Truman who was the first world leader to recognize Israel 11 minutes after their founding. Israel is a thriving democracy in the Middle East. The people of Israel support freedom and liberty just like we do.
It was the right thing to do at the time. That was very controversial.
It was controversial at the time, and it was exactly the right thing to do.
Boy, history has judged Harry Truman quite favorably, hasn't it?
Yes, they have.
But tell me this. If you're a truck driver in West Plains, why should you give part of your paycheck this week to be sent to Israel to help protect them? Break that down for that guy.
So our relationship with Israel, it benefits us as a whole. So we have a strategic relationship with Israel. We share intelligence with them. We work together on military training exercises. The Iron Dome that we've partnered together with Israel has protected Israel from rocket attacks. We are now using that to protect our troops in the Pacific.
A ghastly attack on the people of Israel. If they flatten Gaza, will that change anything?
I think right now Israel has every right to defend itself, and they were attacked by Islamic.
And who could blame them for what
they blame them? I mean,
but do you think that flattening Gaza will fundamentally change? I saw Prime Minister Netanyahu say, "We're going to do something that's going to fundamentally reverberate through history." If you flatten Gaza, would it really fundamentally reverberate through history?
Well, their goal right now is to eradicate Hamas. So if we can get rid of that Hamas terrorist
group, is that
group,
possible?
I think it is possible. It's going to be a long, hard effort, and they're going to need our support today.
The American military, which the most adept, trained, best supplied military in the history of mankind, took on the Taliban, which was just barbaric savages, and they won. Why will Israel win?
Look back at their history. They've won every war that they fought. They come out. They are victorious. And let's remember, Israel they declared war against Hamas now. The last time they declared war was 50 years ago in the Yom Kippur War.
So that was confusing to me, and I think maybe some other folks. You declare war on Gaza Strip.
You declare war on Hamas.
So they declare war on a political party, right? Or a terrorist group or whatever.
On a terrorist group that is funded and supported by
America would have declared war on Afghanistan, you go take Kabul and it's over. They go take Gaza City and it's over. At the end of the day, how do you declare war on a terrorist movement? Has that really been successful? And can you kill every member of Hamas? Is that even possible?
I think the goal right now, they're going to take out all the terrorists who came in and just massacred their country. Again, they have every right to do that, to defend themselves from their people. And then you've got to start changing the hearts and minds of the people in Gaza. I mean, these kids are being brought up to hate Israel. I saw a video of a young kid, couldn't be more than 4 years old, took hostage over into Gaza, and these adults are teaching these other little kids the same age to taunt them. I mean, I couldn't imagine if that was one of my nieces or nephews. How heartbreaking, how just gut-wrenching that would be.
So, end of the day, you say America has to step in and provide leadership. Is that a two-state solution? What does actually a lasting peace look like?
I think lasting peace looks like Israel living at peace. They just want to exist. I mean, who they are, they want peace. As I said, this is the most welcoming country in the world I've ever visited. They're resilient people. They don't want war. They want to be at peace with their neighbors, but their neighbors don't want to be at peace with them. Let's remember, after we found
what kind of peace would it take for Israel to what concessions could they give to have that peace?
Well, Israel has seen by giving up land, like giving up the Gaza Strip does not work. The Palestinians have walked away from numerous deals to create a two-state solution. So I think what Israel's doing is the right thing right now with the Abraham Accords. They are like, look, we've been here for 75 years. We're here to stay. They are making peace with other nations. That people connections then makes it harder to go to war with your neighbor. And let's remember, when we discovered the horrors of the Holocaust, the world said never again. Never again means never again, and never again is now. Hamas started this war. Israel's going to finish it. But they're going to need our support today, tomorrow, the weeks, and the months to come.
Keith Beardslee, thank you so much for joining us. Tell Chris I said hi.
We'll do that.
We'll be right back. The hardest working man in politics, John Ratliff, joins us after this.
Reach your audience with Outreach Studios. Studio 17 offers 1,000 square feet of customizable space that can accommodate roundtable discussions, podcasts, live stream content, and much more. For a different look, we offer View 17. This one-of-a-kind event center is fully wired for broadcast and is perfect for corporate or commercial content. With Outreach Studios, the opportunities are endless. Elevate your message, your brand, and your expectations with Outreach Studios.
Data captured by our state-of-the-art monitors helps us pinpoint the timing and location of severe weather more accurately and respond to trouble more quickly. Ameren, Missouri's investment in smart technologies like this is one way we're improving reliability and restoring power faster than ever. Responding to trouble before trouble hits. That's energy at work. Ameren, Missouri.
Welcome back. This week in Missouri Politics. Opinion Maker panel time. John Ratliff, the hardest working man in Republican politics. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me on.
And Brianna Lennon, the clerk of Boone County. Welcome back to the show.
Yeah.
Let's start off talking about, obviously dominated the news. It's the Israeli-Palestinian, or Hamas war. John Ratliff, I watched every Republican that I saw jump right to defend Israel.
Yeah, we have to when they're the strongest ally we have in the Middle East. I saw this morning Prime Minister Netanyahu released some photos of babies being burned alive. And I think what's happening over there is just disgusting. It's terrible. And I hope that our country takes action to defend our strongest ally. And what we're seeing is completely unacceptable. And we should do everything we can to make sure it stops immediately.
It is a heart-wrenching situation. What's the pulse in Boone County?
I think, our delegation, primarily Democratic delegation, feels very strongly supporting Israelis in making sure that there hopefully is a peaceful resolution.
Do you think there ever going to be a peaceful resolution in our lifetime?
I think it's really hard to say. I hope that there is, though.
I don't think there is. Is there?
I think we've seen what the Israeli Defense Force is looking to do right now, and I think if they are successful in what their attempts are in the next few days or weeks, there might be peace because there won't be anyone left to cause a problem for them.
Well, you can't kill 2 million people, and the world's not going to let you do that. They'll go flatten the place, right? And then what'll happen? Same stuff, right? Just go on and on. It's conditional.
Their push now seems to be to remove Hamas 100% out of the Gaza Strip, and if you get that accomplished, I think that starts something.
I watched America declare war not on Afghanistan, because you could go take Kabul and the war would be over. They declared war on a terrorist group, political party, whatever you want to call them, inside Afghanistan, and we lost. I mean, they run the place now. Just as terrible as it was before, it is again. How do you go kill a terrorist organization in the middle of 2 million people? I don't think there's any historical precedent that succeeds.
I think Israel's the last place, but it's the Jewish homeland, and I think they have a right to be there, and we should do everything we can to defend them. And I think that's what we did in World War II. That's what we're doing now.
Talk a little politics. It all starts locally. Big state senate race. The first time in my professional lifetime, Boone County is going to be its own state senate district. The Republicans, with very good candidates, have never been able to win Boone County. They've always needed help from an adjoining county to carry that. Stephen Weber seems to be off to a great start. Is he going to have a primary?
It's been really quiet in Boone County. We have several months to go before candidate filing opens, but it's been awfully quiet, and we'll see once we get to that point, but I don't think so.
If Stephen Weber has no serious primary, he's very likely to be the senator, right?
I would shoot that over to John about
if Steve Weber comes through with no serious primary, can you beat him?
No, look, in 2016, Senator Robb spent $2.5 million in that very competitive race against Stephen, and we were able to win the district, but we still lost Boone County marginally, but we still lost it. In 2020, spent $2.8 million. Again, the same thing with, I would argue, a weaker candidate. We won by a larger margin in a tough year with Trump on the ballot. Again, Senator Rowden did a fantastic job. I think he's one of the best candidates you're going to get out of Boone County to run there. Raise a ton of money, and it's just not, we couldn't find a way.
Weber's a great candidate. He's just objectively a good candidate.
You can see the amount of the resources he's putting together right now, the team he's putting together. I think if I had to pick a Democrat to represent Boone County, a place that I've spent, the entirety of my professional life working in, I'd be happy if Stephen to be the senator for Boone County.
It's all about governor's race. You work for Mike Kehoe. Heating up. You saw Ashcroft and Igle get into it at a young Republican event in St. Louis. Bill Igle can throw some punches, can he?
He was throwing something, punches or something. He was throwing something.
Don't elbow down.
Yeah. He was fighting hard, I think, with Ashcroft. I'm happy with Secretary Ashcroft, him duking it out with one another. That way Mike Kehoe can keep doing the work, meeting voters where they actually are and not fighting over who can tweet the best.
And raising money.
A lot of money.
Tell me, Crystal Quaid's an impressive candidate, isn't she?
I have known Crystal a while. She's been really good on especially voting rights and things like that. That's how I have come to appreciate her.
I think that you could run the risk in Missouri right now. It's a long shot. She's definitely the underdog, but I think she'll run a credible campaign and she'll help raise the bar for folks down ballot.
I think I personally love to see women on the ballot.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's always a positive thing when you've got women at the top of the ballot. So I think that'll have an impact too.
Sometimes though I find people say, well, it's a woman, it's like a token. It's like, she's a very credible candidate that I think will mount a very credible campaign in the fall.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm excited if for some reason I were to make it to the primary, that you could have this kind of roller derby queen off between the two of them and see who can throw the best elbows.
My money might be on Crystal with the roller derby.
Definitely.
Tell me this. There's some county clerks that want to change how you can file for office. If you're watching this show and let's just say you're a logger in Oregon County, they now want to do it, decide if you're a Republican, whether you can run or not. Is that right?
So I think county clerks are kind of in the middle of this back and forth about a kind of litmus test or a pledge to be able to be on the ballot. So part of the process of getting on a ballot, obviously, is having to file in a primary, and you have to pay a certain amount of money in order to do that to your central committee. And there are some clerks that are being put in the middle where their central committee is telling them that they can't take candidate filing fees anymore, and that they should not be putting people on the ballot. And it's really not the role of the county clerk to be able to do that. We're very aware that is happening and keeping an eye on it as we move it to
sounds like an idiotic idea.
It's a terrible idea. I believe that, first off, it's unconstitutional. I think there's a small group of individuals out there who think they know best for the entire state of Missouri. They know better than the Republican voters of their county, of their legislative district, of the state of Missouri. And I think it's unconstitutional and it's just wrong. These people are trying to decide what it means to be a Republican, the only reason they've even got to be in the position they are is by the Republican primary voters of their area picking them to be, or if not, they just self-appointed. They're not following statute. They're going kind of this ham-hod way through the whole entire process. I we at HRCC intend to take action against them if they try to do this. I believe the Republican primary voters of these districts know what it means to be Republican, and I'm going to continue to support them electing their
What it means
leadership.
to be Republican has actively changed throughout the years.
What's different from what it means to be Republican in Jefferson County to Butler County to Boone County? They're very, very different. And I think as someone who's worked all around the state, I think you can see the difference. Different regions of the state have different interests. And again, no matter what, if the Butler County Republican primary voters decide this Scott Faughn is what it means to be a Republican, then that's what it means to be a Republican. Plain and simple.
Interesting. So we'll have to go to court.
It's 100% going to go to court.
Who wins? They're just going to put you in the middle again, huh?
I mean, I think we're going to end up in the middle again. What we've determined is, you take somebody off the ballot, you get sued by the person you take off the ballot. You put somebody on the ballot, you get sued by somebody that doesn't want them on the ballot. So clerks will be in the middle. We're comfortable with that role. We know that that's the role that we have to play, but it definitely does go to court.
And I think right now they're even threatening. I mean, part of the clerks that are being forced to attempt to do this is because this group are threatening to sue the clerks if they don't do it. And so we want all the clerks to know that we have their back. We are going to help them defend the Constitution.
When Harry Truman was in the White House, the buck stopped with him, but in a county, the buck stops with the county clerk, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
It's with a minute left to win the week.
I think Dean Plocker won the week. He announced He had announced last night that he's going to run for lieutenant governor. It was a huge crowd, packed house, a lot of fun, tons of supporters of St. Louis region, and then all around the state showed up.
A real friend of rural Missouri since he's been in office.
100%.
Who won the week?
I'm going with Jason Hancock. As a local records
I
custodian.
like that little trick he pulled. I like that. That was good.
As a local records custodian, the fact that he worked the Sunshine Law in order to get a good story out of it, but also good policy, I appreciate it.
Yeah, I like that little move. That was slick. I'm gonna say AIPAC. When the American Jewish lobby here in Missouri has done a great job, and it was evidenced by immediately after these attacks, you saw almost uniformity amongst folks coming in support of Israel. I mean, good politics is good politics, and they certainly have done a great job in Missouri explaining folks why they should care about these conflicts. Hope you'll join us here to talk about that issue and a big dose of Missouri politics next week here on This Week in Missouri Politics.
This Week in Missouri Politics is sponsored by the Missouri Automobile Dealers Association, Ameren, Spire, and the United Electric Cooperative.
I'm a history buff, like I know a lot of you are if you watch the show. We're doing a thing of the history of Missouri. We're going to do it one county at a time. We call it Show Me Missouri. We're going to travel to all 114 counties of the state. We'll have a member of the Farm Bureau, county elected officials, some of your state legislators you see here on the show. We're going to talk about the history, what's happening now in the county, and how the two are interconnected. It's a passion project of mine. If you like history, I hope you'll get involved. Follow us. Go to MissouriTimes.com. You can see it. We'll probably branch it off into its own social media at some point. But you've been so good to us at the Missouri Times, the show, different papers. This is a passion project that I hope you'll enjoy. It's called Show Me Missouri. The history of Missouri, one county at a time. The first county was Polk County. We had a great time. And we hope you'll go to MissouriTimes.com, find a little bit about it. And if you like the history of the state, I hope you'll enjoy it.